Hey everybody, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's video, we have a story about a Dungeons & Dragons player who likes their dungeon master's voice a bit too much. A story about a player getting booted from a game for being too excited to play it, and much more. But first, if you enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And to help you with that decision, here is Lucky, the like and comment kitty.
Lucky. What?
He was trying to get him off. But with that done, let's get into these stories. No Vampires for You. Submitted to the D&D Doge subreddit by Reddit user Den Diesel Gaming. I have a short and very sour tale of how I didn't get to play Vampire the Masquerade. This was way back when I was a freshman in high school, so my memory of everything that happened is a little fuzzy. A friend of one of my friends was preparing to run some Vampire the Masquerade for my buddy's girlfriend, and his girlfriend, and some other people, I think. I had asked a couple times if they had room for me to join, but he turned me down both times. Politely, of course, which was odd considering what came next. A while later, he comes up to me and asks if I'm still interested in joining. I told him that I was, and I got the chance to look at which vamp I wanted to be. I had been thinking about the Bruja because of Punk Goth Badass, basically the edgy go-to. Also, in that time, they were the beefy buffed guys. The Gangrel because of Beast People, the closest thing to a werewolf, or the Ventru because they seemed fun. The Red Flag, found only through hindsight and seeing vids from D&D Doge. Hey, that me. Crispy, Drake, and Crit Crab was that I was told that I could not be any of the clans, except for Nosferatu. I was young and stupid, but at the time, I was like, hey, at least I get to play. Oh, how wrong I was. I had been super excited. I was planning on thinking of how to be what could be the worst clan, only to my favor, but I didn't get past choosing my clan. It all ended when me and the GM were meeting up with my friend, who he was planning to tell that I would be joining. The second red flag was that the GM didn't want me telling any of the others that I would be joining, and that he would tell them. But I was so excited that when we met up with my friend, I just kinda blurted out when he let my friend know that I was joining, quote, "I'm gonna be a Nosferatu." But then, the game master said, "Not anymore." And with that, I deflated like a leaky balloon. I was so broken that I didn't speak to my friend for about a month or more, though I did play a session of some form of D&D as a half-demon. That went well, but I never did that again. And that is how I didn't play Vampire the Masquerade. TLDR, got offered a chance to play Vampire the Masquerade, then immediately got revoked when I got overly excited about being a Nosferatu. Man, that sucks to be excited for something like that, only to have the person running it to be a complete douchebag. But to be frank, that was probably for the best, as I can imagine playing under a game master that kicks a player for being excited to play wouldn't be much fun to play under. So I would consider that a bullet dodged. And at least it sounds like it freed you up to play a different D&D game. So silver linings and all that. Let's move on. When the Dungeon Master's Voice is Too Attractive, by Reddit user DesReploid. This story happened a few months ago, when an online D&D 5e group I was DMing for started a new campaign, since 2 of our players had to leave because of private reasons. One of the 3 remaining players offered to bring in an acquaintance of theirs who is interested in tabletop RPGs, but hasn't ever played any, and everyone said that they'd be okay with it. Let's call this new player Tom. I chatted a bit with Tom, went over the world with him, and helped him here and there with character creation. Although, and to my surprise, he already knew his stuff rules-wise. He rolled up a sword bard, and shortly thereafter, we started playing. For the first 3 or 4 sessions, all went well. Tom acclimated himself quickly, and I thought fit into the group rather well. His roleplay was fun, and combat, despite him being new, went smoothly. After the games, he'd often message me about how much fun he's having, and that he enjoys listening to my narrations, and wishes that I'd go on for longer than I do with them. That last part about my narrations will seem a little more creepy at the end of the story, but at the time, I just took the compliment. During the 4th or 5th session, Tom was a bit quieter than usual, and when I called for a break so that I could walk my dog, I took my phone with me and messaged him asking why he was so quiet and if everything was alright. He said it was nothing, and then added that he found my voice very sexy. I felt a bit uncomfortable at that, and told him so as well, but he simply kept going, saying that he wishes I'd talk more during the games. I was really caught off guard by this, and didn't really know what to do at first. But then came his bombshell. He said that the reason he was so quiet was that he was busy beating his meat over my voice. What in all the living fucks? After asking him if he was serious, and him responding with a yes, I immediately kicked him from the server and blocked him. After everyone gathered back up, I explained the situation to them, and we just kept going with the campaign, simply pretending that Tom's character had never existed. Tom will surely not be missed. Well, I suppose that is one way to compliment someone's DMing. Seriously though, what did that player expect to happen after saying something like that? That the DM would fall for him right there? Like, did he really expect that to work? I hate to imagine what the inside of his mind is like. And OP did the right thing by just booting his perverted ass right there. Let's move on to the next one. Someone tried to get me banned from my local store. By Reddit user TacticalPixie1138. Strangest thing, I got a Discord message from the owner of our local gaming store, and he wanted to talk to me about something serious. He wanted me to either go onto voice chat or to call the store itself. So I called. He lets me know that there's been a complaint about me using homophobic and transphobic slurs at my table the Thursday before last. He was sure that this didn't sound like anything that I'd do, and assured me that he just wanted to get everyone's side before responding to the complaint. I asked if they were sure it was me, and he said yes. They described me down to the Game Master t-shirts I made for myself using my cry cut. I asked Dan, the store owner who I was talking to, if he had been in the store recently. He hadn't, because he was at this other store 2 towns over. I reminded him about the post I made on the store's Discord server, saying that due to a medical emergency in the family, my game that I was running at the store was on hold until further notice. Dan looked back and saw the message, so he asked, "So you haven't been in the store on game nights in a while?" And I replied that, with the emergency now being over, but the game was still not running yet, and we were planning to start again this coming Thursday, the 3rd, since things have calmed down. He said, "I don't know then. If it wasn't you, it must have been someone else, or someone being stupid and trying to get you kicked. You haven't pissed anyone off lately, have you?" I responded that if I had, I was unaware of it. So Thursday comes along and I run the session. It goes well, as it usually does. I wish I could say that I saw someone giving me the side eye, or someone with a look of surprise that I hadn't actually been kicked from the store, or any of the dozens of ways that someone might have given themselves away. But that didn't happen, so I still don't know who tried to get me banned from the store. Yeah, that is a bit odd. It sounds to me like maybe OP made someone upset about something during a game, so that person made something up to try to get rid of OP, but didn't count on the fact that OP wouldn't be there for a few weeks. Or someone was mad that OP took those weeks off when they wanted to play. Who the hell knows? It's a good thing that the store owner knew OP well enough To know that OP would never do something like that. Hopefully, OP doesn't have to deal with anything like that again, and maybe figure out who said he did that. Let's move on. A player be like, I wanna see how DM fixes that. By Reddit user, OKYesterday6214. So we have a set of 3, playing DnD for something like around 1.5 years, and we were looking for some more people to join. Our DM put a notice on several Discord servers, interviewed some candidates, and had them join the game one by one, seeing how they do or do not fit in. And there's this person who made this mage character, and his story was about him keeping his familiar in his bag, for God knows what reason, and constantly talking to it, making it seem like he talks to himself, I guess. So we kinda warned him that the DM will give him a chance to naturally join the party, but he has to think of a way to stick to us. And he said, "It's all cool, it's gonna work out." We shrugged, and the session began. So it's dark. We are at this crossing, right after a fight, waiting to be ambushed on our way to the city, and we see him. So the Dungeon Master gives him the spotlight to interact with us, and yes, he started talking to his bag, about some random stuff, I suppose, expecting us to inquire about who he was talking to or something. Like a half beat up party, rushing to the city, expecting to be ambushed, and we just see a random dude talking to himself when we're crossing at night and go like, "Hey, let's be best friends. Who are you talking to?" I have no idea how he envisioned it, but we planned to ask him the way to the city if he didn't come up with an excuse. But he ignored us and just talked to his bag instead. So we passed him, and then the session ends, and he says, "I wonder how the DM's gonna fix the situation of the party ignoring me. He'd better make it convincing story-wise." Should I say that all of us, including the Dungeon Master, were floored? All in all, he and his weird concept of bag talking was let go right then and there. I understand introducing a new player and character to an ongoing campaign can be a bit tricky, but it sounds like the party gave their best efforts, all things considered. But the player just kept talking to the bag. Then said player had the audacity to say that the party didn't interact with him, and that the DM needs to fix it? I mean, the party did interact, asking for directions. Perhaps they should have talked to this player above table, that this was them trying to get them into the party, and that if he didn't jump on it, it would be out of character for the others to not just walk past the crazy guy talking to himself. I mean, what did the player expect the party to do? Just kidnap them? Talk about a confusing situation. Hopefully, the rest of the group eventually found a player with a character that would have a reason to go with the party. Let's move on. But before we do, I think we need a kitty intermission. So here's a Super Simba close-up. There we go. Now let's get to the story. Dungeon Master doesn't let players use reactions. By Reddit user NoCloud7275. This happened a few months ago on an online game. The group was great, and our DM seemed nice enough at first. As we're concluding our session 0 and just shooting the shit about the game, the DM starts going on a rant about how he hates the shield spell and that it should be nerfed. I was playing a wizard, so this was a bit of a concern to me. Q Session 1. We're all level 5, and the party is comprised of 3 players, a Battlemaster Fighter, a Thief Rogue, and Evocation Wizard, myself. We're starting off the game with a basic job. Clear out a mine, some Duergar, to reclaim for some dwarves. We get into the first combat of the session, and the problems start happening immediately. Whenever an enemy hits us with an attack, the Dungeon Master starts speaking incredibly quickly, preventing us from using our reactions, on the basis that it's too late. An example. DM. The Duergar swings his war pick at you. 15 hits, you take 7 piercing damage. Okay, Rogue, your turn. Me. Wait, I'd like to block the blow by casting shield. DM, too late. You should have said something sooner. It's the rogue's turn now. And it wasn't just me that he was targeting either. Whenever our Battlemaster tried to use Repose, or Parry, or a rogue would use Uncanny Dodge, the Dungeon Master would do the exact same thing, and say that we just needed to say something faster, and that we can't just retroactively decide you want to use those abilities. The session ends, and the Dungeon Master leaves the call. Us players agreed that the DM was being pretty unfair, so a couple of days later, we decided as a group to make clear to him that we weren't enjoying the fact that he was clearly and actively inhibiting us from using our reaction abilities, and to please be more reasonable. But he responds with, "Sorry, you guys will just have to speak up faster. It's a life or death situation, and you've got to make split-second decisions." So we all privately message one another and agree on our plan. What came next was very petty of us, but oh, it was satisfying. If the DM wanted split-second reactions, then that's what he'd get. The second session comes around, and we're all on the ball with our plan. Whenever the Dungeon Master would roll, we would call out our reactions the split second the dice rolled on the screen, and it ended up going something like this. DM, the suit of armor brings its hammer down upon you. 24. Rogue, I uncanny dodge. DM, hold on, I didn't roll yet. Me, it's right there in the screen, dude. You gotta make those split-second decisions. So on and so on. We even turned it around on the DM when we faced an enemy that could parry as a reaction. Fighter, I smashed my axe into his side. Does 20 hit? DM, it does, but... Fighter, great, I deal 9 points of slashing damage to him. Wizard's turn. DM, hey, he parries that. Fighter, I've already rolled the damage. He has to react faster. The end of the session comes around, and the Dungeon Master immediately leaves the chat before telling us that he was no longer interested in DMing for us, and that we were constantly controlling how he could use his monsters, and preventing him from using their abilities. And I'm like, just like you did with our characters, bud. Now, was this immature of us? Yes. But we all agreed that it was worth it to turn the tables on this DM, and give him a taste of his own medicine. The other players and myself then went on to make our own game together, in which the rogue is the DM, and we've been having fun since. Jesus, were they playing with a Micro Machines guy? And yes, I do realize that that reference might fly over some people's heads. But yeah, when doing combat in Dungeons & Dragons, or any tabletop RPG, it's always good to give ample time for the players to react to things. It sounds like this DM was out to, quote, win DnD, and when the tables were turned, he just couldn't handle it. Plus, the players did air their concerns, but the Dungeon Master just ignored it, telling them that they had to react fast. So the group did do the right thing first in trying to communicate, so I applaud the way that they turned the tables on him. Plus, it's good to hear that at least some good came out of it, as it sounds like they still play together, just without Micro Machines guy. But with that said, let's get to today's final story. I Think I Avoided a Horror Story by Reddit user Yeverthel. I recently started recruiting for a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game, both the first time I've run PF2 and the first time I've run in person since before the pandemic. My social circle has changed, so I had to recruit people unknown to me, which is always a fun time. As we're discussing things on the Discord server I made for the game, I get the definite impression that one of the unknowns is a serious power gamer. But whatever, I can deal with that. Then, she decides to tell everyone what we need in the party, like specific classes. Where things really started to turn south was when one of the other players said that he was considering an oracle, and she basically said that it was too complex for him, and wasn't a good class anyways, etc., without anyone asking for advice. I then received a private message from the Oracle player expressing concern about what he was seeing. At which point, I private messaged her, as I don't like correcting people in public, saying, "I get that you want to help, but please refrain from offering character advice unless it's asked for, as it can be really off-putting to some people." She proceeds to defend herself because it's a really bad class and will quote-unquote drag the party through the mud, but never acknowledged what I said. So at this point, she's on thin ice. After I explained how I would be doing recall knowledge, basically doing it rules as written, she complains that I'm quote-unquote making it worthless, and that I should quote-unquote use house rule recall knowledge, because otherwise, no one will use it. When I don't buckle, she instead tells me that I need to make sure that the misinformation gained on a critical fail is obviously misinformation to the players. And to me that reads, "So we can metagame and not act on it." Never let it be said that I'm not a kind person, because I didn't kick her there. I remember what it's like being socially awkward and excited and passionate about something and wanting to help, but not really having the social skills to read the room and gauge how best to help. But then, another player expressed an interest in playing an alchemist. Cue the spiel about how an alchemist is complex and not very good and too hard for new players, and what he needed to do to play one. So I sent her a message saying, "It is apparent to me that I'm not a good fit for you as a game master. We will both be unhappy with you as a player at my table. So I wish you the best of luck in finding a game that fits the way you want to play." And her response was, "Go ahead with the inevitable TPK." At which point, I just cut off communication, because I wasn't sure if I could keep being civil to her. She has attempted to message me twice since then, but I just keep ignoring her friend requests. I think if I had kept her in the game, we would have had an actual horror story about a power gaming rules lawyer who tried to control the table and killed the game because of it. Yeah, I would say that this is another example of narrowly missing something that could have become a much longer horror story. That player was showing all the signs of a controlling rules lawyer that would probably be arguing with the other players and the game master very often if she stayed in the game. And OP did the right thing by letting the player know that he didn't think she would be a good fit for his table. That, and I don't blame OP for blocking her after the response she gave. But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.